2014 is off to an amazing start as NASA rockets towards this year's launch of Exploration Flight Test 1. The Orion program began the year with several major milestones. The service module was completely finished in January at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The service module is the part of the spacecraft that contains all of the structural elements, spacecraft adapter, payload fairings, and crew module separation systems the EFT-1 capsule needs to conduct its high-altitude orbital testing. In February, the completed service module was stress-tested for the final time. The structural loads test proved that the vehicle will endure the physical stresses of its upcoming flight. After the test, the service module was ready to attach to the crew module. A test of the forward bay cover and parachute system was successfully passed in January at the Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona. After the Orion mock-up was dropped from a plane, the forward bay cover separated from the capsule, allowing the parachutes to release as the crew module descended safely to the desert floor. The capsule, parachutes, and forward bay cover were recovered and subjected to additional testing in the following months. In February, the Delta Mariner delivered 2 of the core and starboard boosters for the Delta IV Heavy rocket. After the boosters go through stringent testing and processing in the Horizontal Integration Facility, they will roll out to Launch Complex 37 for EFT-1's launch later this year. A full-scale mock-up of the Orion capsule was delivered to Langley Research Center in March. The mock-up will be used to perform a variety of static and impact tests to evaluate various water landing scenarios in a wide array of different conditions. At NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, upgrades and modernization of the multi-payload processing facility continue as the building is readied for Orion processing support. By April of next year, the MPPF will have updated structural elements like environmental control systems, high bay doors, and emergency systems. The facility is also upgrading spacecraft preparation elements such as fuel and breathable gas systems, time-critical installation equipment, and ground support equipment storage. In January, the Crawler Transporter 2 completed a test drive on new traction roller bearings in 2 of its truck sections. The new roller bearings are one of several upgrades to the Crawler Transporter, which will carry the significantly heavier Space Launch System out to Launch Pad 39B. The other 2 truck sections of the Crawler Transporter will also receive new roller bearings and complete a follow-up test drive in November. In February, NASA and the Navy tested procedures to be used during Orion recovery operations. After launch and re-entry simulations, the forward bay cover and parachutes were successfully retrieved from rough waters off the California coast. The ocean turbulence in the well deck of the recovery ship made it difficult to secure the Orion test article. The challenges experienced during this test reinforced the necessity of practicing spacecraft recovery. The circumferential dome weld tool produced a second liquid oxygen tank confidence article at the Michoud Assembly Facility. The confidence tank verified that the weld tool is capable of producing the core stage tank up to the exacting standards the Space Launch System will require. A composite cryotank for liquid hydrogen was also produced and delivered to Marshall Space Flight Center aboard NASA's Super Guppy cargo plane in March. The advanced composite cryotank, which could benefit many of NASA's deep space exploration spacecraft, will undergo a series of structural pressure tests later this year. A scale model of the SLS was used in acoustic testing to see what effects high and low frequency sound waves will have during launch. The model's core stage fired for 5 seconds while an array of microphones collected the acoustic data. A full assembly test with the scale rocket motors will be conducted later this year. In March, NASA Administrator Charles Bolden visited Marshall after the software integration team powered up the flight avionics, which includes hardware, software, and operating systems for Space Launch System. Known as First Light, the flight computers of the SLS simulated the flight path the vehicle will experience during launch. NASA's Exploration Systems Development Division is flying through production, testing, and launch, as 2014 promises to be one of the most productive and exciting years in recent space history.